Hey, what is up, mortals? It is SBurkeVA here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 17 of What If Deku Was the Shield Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. The image of Izuku crossing the finish line with Present Mike screaming that Midoriya had won the first round was seen on televisions and computer screens worldwide. In a tiny apartment, Inko was crying so many tears of pride that her neighbors a floor down thought that her water pipes had broken. At the same time, the mother of a certain exploding blonde had thrown her head back in laughter as she imagined how her son would react to not getting first place after that little speech he gave. Elsewhere, another woman watched the scene unfolding from within her luxurious office. Since the moment Class 1A had taken to the field, the woman had searched for Izuku Midoriya, and, once she had found him holding the hand of one of his classmates, kept her attention on him with a laser focus. On her desk was a file with the teen's picture on it, as well as an older article of him back when he was 4. Sadly, as soon as the match began, her focus somewhat waved as she saw his Filolio. She watched the two of them with fascination as the two moved past every obstacle with minimum difficulty all the way to the finish line. And now she watched, a slight blush appearing on her face, as Midoriya's mount flapped its spread wings in celebration that they had won. Simply marvelous. Those feathers, that unique form, a Filolio like this is surely one of a kind. Oh, Melty, how I envy that you are there and might actually get a chance to see such a magnificent creature up close. Then the woman caught hold of herself as she quickly coughed into her fist. Then she looked down at the screen once more. Now her focus was back on Midoriya with a saddened frown. Truly, he has trained his Filolio well. And such an interesting quirk. I wonder how many others out there will see that. The woman's eyes then narrowed before shooting to a picture on her desk, one containing the woman's 2 daughters. Melty, what on earth are you up to this time? Meanwhile, back in the stadium, Izuku was maneuvering Philo back to the platform that had brought her to the field in the first place. As they moved, he found that the new silence of the crowd was beginning to get under his skin a little, as he also began to feel the eyes of them upon him, judging him. And him alone, now that there was no one else to look at. Well, other than Midnight, who gave him a slight wink and a smile to say good job, without being obvious. Cheater! Izuku's blood ran cold when he heard that voice, warmed only by the anger that was beginning to bubble inside of him. She's right, that's not a Filolio. Is he trying to pull a fast one on us? No way a Filolio can move that fast. What, is he pumping it full of drugs or something? That's gotta be it. We should report him for animal cruelty. You don't belong here. Get out, villain! As the boos and accusations of the crowd continued, some began to throw stuff down to the ground. Boxes of popcorn, empty containers, Endeavor masks, and so much more. At one point, Izuku felt a half-full can hit him in the back of the head. Although it barely hurt him physically, Izuku could feel his eyes sting as he fought back the tears welling up.
Master, are you okay? Why is everyone so mad at you?
Philo's innocent question made Izuku's mouth go dry, his hands trembling as he got off. Thankfully, a voice that wasn't Present Mike's came on through the speakers, whose tired tone silenced everyone. Cheating in the UI Sports Festival? Now that is a pretty serious accusation. I do hope you're not suggesting that we didn't do our own checks and verified everything without any proof? If you are and you wear a cape, then you'd better go home. And hang it up for good. Falling into mob mentality is beneath any true hero. The silence could only be broken by the crack of Midnight's whip. Enough! I spotted no cheating within this event. Are we clear? The crowd said nothing for a bit before collectively deciding just to ignore Izuku and continue enjoying the sports festival. Their attention turned to the students who were now just entering the stadium, cheering for them in a way that Izuku secretly wished they could have cheered for him. However, he pushed those feelings down as he said his goodbyes to Philo and promised her that soon she could enjoy the rest of the festival with everyone else. For the next several minutes, students milled into the stadium as robots went to work picking up the trash. Izuku noticed that many of the first group clearly saw what littered the floor before turning to look at Izuku and then turning away, as if they were trying to tell themselves that it wasn't what it looked like or something similar. Thankfully, not all of them did this.
Hey, bro. You doing okay? Yeah. I'm, doing all right. Ribbit, you sure? We know you can talk to us if something's bothering you. That's right. We're your friends, after all. I mean, this is just so unfair. It's like Mr. Aizawa said on our first day, remember? It's a hero's job to face the unfairness of the world. It's just, now, directed at me. Still, it's not right. As she said this, Raphtalia shot a look over at some of their classmates who were staying clear from the forest-haired teen. Chief among them was Ida, who stood in such a way that he could shoot sideways glares in Izuku's direction. Apparently, he hadn't enjoyed being humiliated like that on national television. Then there was Todoroki, who just continued to look at Izuku coldly. Then came the one who seemed to just be demanding attention, Bakugo. The explosive teen was on his knees, slamming his fists onto the ground while screaming at the top of his lungs. His usual string of curses had Izuku's nickname thrown into the mix.
Then, racing towards them, was the pink-haired girl May with a bright smile on her face.
Shield boy, you need to let me have another look at Philo. I want to design her a rocket pack that'll either help increase her speed or let her fly. Presuming that baby doesn't blow up into a million pieces. Or maybe a small food dispenser so that she can have a snack while she runs. Wait, will that cause her to cramp? Do giant chickens cramp? I'll make a baby to make sure she doesn't cramp. Hatsume, take a breath.
A few minutes later, Midnight called up all the students who had passed the first round. A group that mostly consisted of the Hero Course students, though Izuku saw a student from General Studies in there as well as May.
The next challenge has been decided. Jousting. Here's how this event will work. Everyone will pair up into teams of 2 with one member being the team rider, while the other will be the horse. The rider will be given a plastic sword as well as a special hat. These hats will create a special holographic target on them along with a number starting at 20. The rider's goal in this event is simple. Strike at the target using their sword. Every time your target is struck, its number value will decrease by 5. Once it reaches 0, you're out of the game. As for the horse, your job is to move your team around the field as well as to keep your rider up. If the rider falls to the ground for any reason, your team will lose 5 points. You may use your quirks however you wish. However, attacking the horse is strictly prohibited.
Izuku brought a hand to his chin as he began to process what he had heard. The rider would need to be someone who was light enough for the horse to carry them throughout the entire match while also having a decent amount of accuracy. This round seemed almost tailored for someone like Raphtalia, and he wasn't alone in thinking that. Out of the corner of his eye, Izuku could see nearly all of the other students looking at her with hungry expressions while the Tanuki girl kept her gaze on Midnight. As for the horse, that person would need to have both great strength as well as high levels of endurance in order to carry the rider for that long. Perhaps maybe even a quirk that might help them out.
This round of the sports festival will go on until we have 8 teams left standing. However, we do not intend to waste too much time on this, so if after 15 minutes the round is still going on, we will end it there, and the top 8 teams with the highest points left will move on to the final round.
Midnight then paused for a moment before looking down at Midoriya.
Finally, there will be a special rule put in place for Izuku Midoriya's team. Since he came in first, once his team's balloon has been destroyed, they will be out of the running, and the team that destroyed his balloon will receive all their points. This is the price one pays for being at the top.
Izuku froze where he stood as he felt everyone's gazes upon him.
I forgot that they do this sometimes. I'm gonna be target now even more than ever.
With that, Midnight gave the students a few minutes to pick their teams. As expected, nearly everyone was rushing Raphtalia. Raphtalia, surely you understand that I am the ideal choice for this competition. With your honed sword skills along with my speed, we shall have this contest finished within moments.
No way! She has to pick me! Us girls have to stick together. Please let me ride you. I'm too short for anything else.
But Raphtalia politely shook her head before walking over to Midoriya, taking hold of his hand.
Sorry, but I'm gonna work with someone I trust.
A chorus of groans erupted, followed quickly by everyone rushing to form their teams before the time ran out.
Are you sure you want to team up with me? I mean, it's a pretty big disadvantage. Of course I do. There's no one I'd rather be with since we know each other so well. And if I'm being honest, I'd rather us get to the finals together. So this way, we either get in together, or we get knocked out together.
Izuku could only stare at Raphtalia, his face turning a bright red while she smiled at him with her eyes closed. After a moment, it became too much for him, so he turned around to cover his face.
Hey there. Why am I not surprised to see you two working together?
Izuku looked up to see Kirishima approaching the pair with a big toothy grin on his face.
You know, I had thought about asking you if you wanted team... No, I'm retaking again, sorry. You know, I had thought about asking if you wanted to team up with me, but I didn't think you'd be a good fit man. Nothing personal, you know.
Izuku nodded.
Yeah, my quirk doesn't allow me to pick up other weapons for some reason. So since I couldn't pick up a sword, I would have to be the horse. No matter what. If we did team up and you used your quirk, well, anyways, thanks for at least considering it. Who did you team up with?
Kirishima shot a thumb towards Bakugo, who stood there with his hands in his pockets and a sour expression.
Told him I was the best fit. With my hardening quirk, I can better handle all of his explosions.
Nodding, Izuku looked around to see who else had already come up with their own teams. From where he stood, he could see Uraraka and Sue had teamed up. Close to them were Kaminari and Jiro, who seemed to be in the middle of an argument. Mineta, surprisingly, had already found a teammate in Shoji. At the time, Ashido had decided to team up with Tokoyami. As for Todoroki, he looked oddly blank as a purple-haired teen spoke to him. As for Ida,
"You're coming with me."
The pink-haired girl then gave out a laugh as she dragged a confused and slightly struggling Ida over to where Midnight was standing, a grin on her face that Izuku had gotten to know, and one that made him shudder slightly. Speaking of product placement, this video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you're from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies, but by switching your location to Japan, you can access them wherever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan for $99.99. This deal is for a limited time, and thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video.
Are you all as hyped as I am to bring the second round?
No, I seriously doubt that. Izuku felt a small smile appear on his face as he listened to his teacher's banter. Currently, he was standing along the edge of the field along with all of the other teams, each one spaced an equal distance apart from each other along the perimeter, alternating from classes 1A and 1B. Slowly, he looked from one side to the other, wondering if they would be rushing him as soon as the round began. That would, after all, be the smartest decision they could make.
Hey, don't worry. We got this, together.
As Raphtalia spoke, Izuku could feel her hands running through his hair while her tail swayed behind his back. This brought the teen a sense of ease as he looked up to try and see the brown-haired girl who was now sitting on his shoulders. His hands held onto her thighs, keeping her in place as he managed to spot a bit of her face smiling down upon him warmly. While he couldn't see it now, he knew that she was wearing a UA baseball cap with a hologram being projected out from the top.
Right, together.
Without warning, the buzzer rang, signaling the start of the round. Not a single student wasted a second, with most of Class 1A rushing over to where Izuku and Raphtalia were, all of them wanting those extra points and to get rid of the one team right off the bat. Leading the pack was Team Aoyama and Ojiro, followed closely by Team Sero and Sato. Further behind them were Teams Mineta Shoji, Kirishima Bakugo, and Kaminari Jiro. Lastly was the team of Uraraka and Su. However, they weren't the only ones moving. Class 1B was on the move as well, towards the middle of the field? Izuku blinked as he tried to understand what was going on until something clicked into place. One of the Class 1B horses, a teen with no lips and white hair, managed to touch the ground, causing it to ripple for a moment before most of those in 1A began to sink. This was followed by another member of 1B, whose appearance reminded Izuku of a glue gun, not too far off as the teen began shooting glue right into the field. As a blonde-haired teen began throwing back his head, laughing while riding on top of what looked like a Kirishima clone, everyone could see what had happened. Class B had realized the lure of getting those extra points, and so they had set this trap for them, with Izuku and Raphtalia being the unknowing bait. However, Class 1A wasn't going down without a fight, as Sero used his tape to attach himself to the laughing blonde, surprising and silencing him before he could go into a monologue or something. With a mighty tug and assistance from Sato, the two managed to pull the blonde off his horse, causing him to land into their own trap, as well as costing them 5 points. Then another strand of tape was shot out, this time attaching itself to the ground so that the duo could pull themselves to safety. Others were doing similar things to get out. Bakugo, cursing all the way, used his explosions to rocket himself into the air while Kirishima hardened his body. Explosion after explosion propelled Bakugo through the air towards his opponents, even managing to dodge a sword that was also moving through the air via flying horns controlled by the rider of the lipless teen. Bakugo found his target, his feet connecting with the teen's chest to knock him down before using his explosions to get back to Kirishima. Said redhead was in the process of trying to move through the slowly hardening earth and glue, using brute strength to get out of his mess.
Is that even allowed? As long as the rider doesn't touch the ground, it's allowed.
At the same time, Shoji was using his quirk to create extra limbs and body parts to punch and pry apart the ground so that his team could escape. But as he worked, neither he nor Mineta spotted the floating hands moving behind them. With a quick slash, Mineta's target was struck. Then again, and again, and again, all without either of the pair realizing it until the announcement was made. Those who weren't stuck were on the offensive. Su, who was the rider on her team, used her tongue to wrap around one of the 1B riders and pull them towards her before striking the target with her sword before she had to let go and let him drop to the ground, costing his team 10 points. As for Team Ashido and Tokoyami, the pink-skinned girl was sliding around with ease while Tokoyami's dark shadow held onto the blade. The shadowy creature reached out and swinging the sword while it moved, making contact with several targets one after the other. Then there was Ida. Izuku could now hear the voice of the mad inventor on the speakers, talking about her babies as Ida ran around the field in a circle. Somehow, she had gotten Midnight to okay letting Ida wear some of her gear, which seemed to be keeping them up and moving, while Mei waved her arms around and gestured to this or that invention. She also seemed to suggest that this was just a small taste of what was to come. "You can't be serious. This is a highly honored tradition, not an infomercial. We look like utter fools." Mei simply laughed in response to this.
Hey, I'm here to show off all my babies to the support companies. So Ron and I'll make sure their eyes are on us. By the end of the day, every support company in the world will remember Mei Hatsume and... What was your name again? Oh, well, I'm sure all the heroes and support companies will look it up if they really care.
I feel so used. And as they ran, Mei pulled out something that caused a firework to shoot out over them. Back with Team Izuku Raphtalia, things were getting a bit complicated as the pair found themselves surrounded. Aoyama and Ojiro were right in front of them, along with the teams of Kaminari Jiro and Zero Sato. Also with them was Yaoyorozu as the horse, while an orange-haired girl from Class 1B was the rider. The four of them held their swords in hand, ready to strike while the out-of-bounds line was right behind Izuku.
Those points will be ours. I don't think so. Shield prison.
With that, the dome of shields surrounded both Izuku and Raphtalia to trap them inside.
Sorry, but if you think that you can hide in your little shell, then you have another thing coming.
As the 1B girl said this, Present Mike introduced her to the crowd as Itsuka Kendo, while said teen used her quirk to enlarge her hands. This sudden change caused Yaoyorozu to wobble for a bit, leaning forward and backward for a moment, before the pair charged at the shield dome with Kendo pulling back her fist to deliver a mighty punch. At the same time, Aoyama used his own quirk to fire a laser from his belly button. The two attacks hit the shield at the same time, only to pass right through? As the grouped teens blinked in confusion, Raphtalia dropped the illusion hiding the pair. Now standing behind them, the Tanuki girl swung her blade with such speed and precision that only a blur could be seen as the targets on the heads of Aoyama, Sero, and Jiro all hit 0. Kendo turned around as Present Mike announced that 3 teams were out of the running. Izuku watched as the orange-haired girl held her sword up before swinging it just as Yaoyorozu rushed toward them. Raphtalia easily blocked the attack, holding onto her own blade with one hand. Then,
Izuku, behind us! Airstrike shield!
The green barrier shield appeared right behind Raphtalia's head just in time to block an attack from behind from the floating pair of hands. Moving backward, Izuku began to put some distance between them while holding up his shield, ready to defend them from whatever came their way next. As he did so, he noticed something that seemed off. In the distance was Todoroki as the horse, with that purple-haired teen on his shoulders. Neither had moved since the match had started, which seemed off. Todoroki could have probably frozen the entire field in an instant, like what he had done in the tunnel at the start of the festival. Was he worried that the same trick wouldn't work again? And why was the purple-haired teen just grinning at everyone? The next thing Izuku knew was that his feet were sinking into the ground as if it had suddenly become quicksand. Surprised, the teen looked around to see the lipless teen at work again with his quirk. Trying to move quickly, Izuku began to do his best to climb out of it, or at least free one of his legs. But all of his struggles seemed to do was cause him to sink deeper and deeper until he was up to his knees before the quirk was deactivated.
Oh no, I can't move. Raphtalia skipped with the sword, but there's a limit to how she can move, and we're surrounded. I don't think she can block them all before time runs out. If only she could move more freely, then...
Inspiration struck Izuku as he held up his shield.
Raphtalia, hop on!
Raphtalia hesitated for only a moment before leaping off of Izuku's neck. While she was in the air, Izuku created an airstrike shield right below where she would have landed a few feet from the ground.
What? No way, Midoriya, that's cheat. As long as Raphtalia doesn't touch the ground, then it's okay.
With that statement, another shield appeared near where Team Yaoyorozu Kendo stood. Without wasting a moment, Raphtalia leapt into the air while twisting her body to show off her athletic abilities and landing on Izuku's platform. Kendo raised her sword, but it was too little too late, as Raphtalia knocked it away before delivering her own series of slashes to the pair's target. Then, just as the target read 0, Raphtalia jumped high into the air to avoid an attack from behind from the blonde horned girl, and landed on another airstrike shield created by Izuku. With a grin on his face, Izuku continued to make shield after shield for Raphtalia to leap onto as she moved around the field, now more free to show off her own unique set of skills. The crowd cheered as Raphtalia spun around, taking down another team while blocking another attack that came her way. It was a little difficult, with Izuku doing his best to keep an eye on where to place the shields given the situation he was in, but he managed with minor difficulties. And thankfully, he didn't have to do this for too much longer, as a dual attack from the detached hands and Dark Shadow hit Mei's target at the same time, knocking both her and Ida out of the contest.
And with that, the contestants for the final round have been decided. First is the duel of shield and sword, Izuku Midoriya and Raphtalia. Next, we have the team who won without taking a single step, Shoto Todoroki and Hitoshi Shinso. But let's not forget the team that fought tooth and nail to keep all their points, Katsuki Bakugo and Eijiro Kirishima. But they'll have some tough competition going up against Mina Ashido and Fumikage Tokoyami. And let's not forget the gravity-defying frogtastic team of Ochako Uraraka and Tsuyu Asui. Next, coming up from Class 1B, we have the team of Beauty and the Beast, Setsuna Tokage and Jirota Shishida. Then there's the high-flying, ground-sinking pair, Pony Tsunotori and Juzo Hananuki. And finally, the green team, Togaru Kamakiri and Ibara Shiozaki.
Couldn't you have just listed their names and saved us some time? Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Meals, Adam Zagel, Zill, XAV Beat 03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toby Acosta, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364, and Knuckles, Rimuo Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.